So, very first topic, because you're going to be dealing with them all 4 years of high school, is lockers. Most of you have already dealt with them in middle school, but some of you haven't, and that's okay. That's alright. I mean, most people at the very least have had to deal with them in gym class because of the lockers in the gym to put your uniforms in, but you know, some of you haven't, and you don't know how to work a lock on a locker, and that's cool, because I have a lock right here, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It is really not hard. It is not a big deal. So, basically, the only difference between a locker like you'll have for the rest of your classes versus a gym locker is that a gym locker is going to have one of these individual little locks on it, a padlock, versus regular locker is going to have one built into it. They both work almost exactly the same. The only difference is when you finish with one of these, you pop the top part open, and on a locker like you'd use for the rest of your school stuff, there's generally next to the lock a little metal dealie that you pull it up. Sometimes it's down, but 9 times out of 10 it's up. So there's that. They'll either give you the combination for your locker on your schedule, or it'll be on or in the locker somewhere, but let's just pretend that this is your locker lock. This particular lock is 22410. So, the way you do this, you always clear a lock to the right. You go right, left, right. So you go 3 times around, passing the 0 past the little, if you can see it, there's an arrow at the top. You have to get the 0 past the little arrow 3 times, and then go to your first number. So, that's 1, 2, 3. Now you hit your first number, which in this case would be 22. Lined up like that. Now you go left. Not the first time you hit the number, you go past the first number on it, and then you stop on your second number, which in this case is 4. And then you go back right again, and you just go until you hit the number this time. You don't have to pass anything. So in this case, that would be 10, and ta-da! It unlocks. Not a big deal at all. It's really easy. Sometimes it takes a few tries just to get the hang of what you're doing, which, admittedly, it took me about 3 tries to do this on this one before I started filming, just to make sure that I still remembered how to do it, but really, it's really easy, so don't even stress about it. It's not a big deal. So, one thing I'm going to tell you from experience is that chances are your regular locker is not going to be centralized to your classes. It's probably going to be in some way out part of the school that's nowhere even near the majority of your classes. And you're going to be running back and forth like a bat out of hell to get back and forth to your locker in the classes. I don't know why they do it that way, but they do. It's like clockwork. They do it every damn time to just about everybody. Unless you know somebody higher up in the ranks in the school system, they are going to just stick your locker wherever. Sometimes they have an alphabetized system for this. Sometimes it's completely at random, but get used to where it is, because it's going to be there all 4 years for you. You don't get a new one, so yeah, there's that. Sorry, I took notes of all the things I want to touch on, so. Alright, so anyway, if you can test your locker during orientation, fantastic. Definitely make sure to do it at least once. Find out if it opens easily enough. Find out if it sticks. And just make sure you can do it the first place so you're not freaking out on the first day and end up being late to class because you couldn't get your locker open. Because if you do it a couple times when you have free time and you're not rushing to do it, you'll be able to do it. Memorize your locker, both your number and the combination, as quickly as possible. This should go without saying. I mean, it sounds so stupid, but almost everybody has gone to the wrong locker at least once, not realizing that it's the wrong number. Like, either they're one too far over, or they're in the wrong hall. You'd be amazed how badly people screw this up. I was notorious, even after 3 years, of still going to the next one over from mine. I'm apparently really bad with odd numbers, so there's that, but I was able to remember my combination a lot easier than the number, but some people are the other way around. But regardless, one way that you can get around that is write down both your locker number and your combination on a small slip of paper that's not going to be really obvious, and like stick it in your wallet or in your purse somewhere where it's not going to be really obvious, and in case you forget, you've got it on you. So there's that. Top versus locker bottoms. Okay, unless you're like really lucky and you're in a school that has the full length lockers that are like basically floor to ceiling, you're gonna be dealing with top versus bottom lockers. They both got their pros and cons, but generally, for most intents and purposes, top lockers are better. You don't get a say in what you get, otherwise everybody would take the top lockers, but top lockers are generally better unless you're a short person, which I am, but I never got a top locker, so it was never a problem for me, but yeah, for the bottom lockers, it's usually bad because you always have to get the person who has the top locker above yours to move out of the way anytime you want to get down into your locker, and you have to crouch down and get to it, and you have to worry about being stepped on, you have to worry about if anything in the locker above yours might leak and fall down onto your stuff, and it's kind of like bunk beds when you think about it, but yeah, unfortunately you don't get a say in what you get, it's all randomly assigned, so just be aware that when you find out whether you've got a top or bottom locker, if you have a top one, be blessed, because just generally they're better and preferred, and everybody's jealous of the people who've got them, so there's that. No matter what, don't share your combination with anybody. I mean, I don't care if it's your best friend, or your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, or whoever. Don't give that shit out. Don't let them take, or I mean, even if they take it as a personal affront to them, don't give it out, because it will only end badly. Like the first time you guys have a fight, and they have that info, they are going to be in your locker messing with your shit. I can pretty much guarantee to you. It happens over and over again, and if they're not messing with your stuff, they will steal your stuff, whether or not there was even a fight, which is really retarded, but this is why there's a rule about don't give those out to people, no matter how well you know them, and obviously you don't give it to somebody you don't know well at all or anything, but don't, just make it simple on yourself. Don't give it out to anybody. It's kind of like your online passwords, you don't give those out to anybody. It's the same sort of thing. Unless you want your stuff tampered with, just don't do it. Otherwise, you've only got yourself to blame when something goes wrong, because chances are something will go wrong if you give it out. Also, don't share lockers with your friends for extra space. It seems like a really genius idea at the time until something of yours goes missing. So, there's that. If your locker sticks, I would say if you have a way of sneaking in like a smallish can of WD-40, do it and like just spray it on the hinges real quick. But a lot of places will not let you get away with that, both because of the fumes and people have been known to huff that stuff, and just in general, they have to question why you have it, even though it's a very legit reason. So if that's the case, I would say contact the school administration, because there's always somebody there you can go to that will either put some lubricant on the hinges to make it open easier, or will fix the locker, and if need be, this is a really, really, really rare case scenario, if need be, they can reassign you to another locker, but I think I've only known maybe 2 people ever that got a reassigned locker, and I've known a lot of high schoolers, so don't hold your breath on that. Don't try and fuck up your locker so you can get a new one somewhere else. Just don't. Because, yeah, they can generally fix whatever's wrong with it. I mean, it may end up screwed up again down the line, and just go back to them and have them fix it again. Same goes for if somebody vandalizes your locker and, like, paints on it. Obviously, you have to both report for harassment and for the vandalism at that point, but yeah, these are the fun things you get to deal with in high school. But most people don't have to deal with that particular one, so I wouldn't worry about that, but if you do, it's an easy enough fix, so don't worry about it. You're gonna have fairly limited space in your locker, especially if it's the top and bottom type locker system. So your space is at a premium, make the use of it. Don't put things in there that you don't really need, because you're going to need that space. I can guarantee you, whether or not you think you're even going to use it, trust me, you need that space. Unless you've got the full-length lockers, they generally don't have shelves in them, which God only knows why, probably because of budget cuts or something, but they make those really cheap fold-up shelves that you can get at like any office supply store, or even like drug stores in the school supplies section. Just about everywhere has them. They're really cheap. Trust me, it will benefit you to have one. Some lockers are too narrow for those to go in which case I really don't know what to say to help you there. You're kind of screwed. But if you can fit the locker shelves in there, definitely do it. You're going to be thanking me later when you're able to have the 2 levels of books and binders and whatever, versus trying to cram it all on the bottom and stack stuff on top of stuff and having just one huge mess that you can't even deal with. So, be careful when you're hanging up like a jacket or a sweatshirt or anything in there on the little hook, because if you're not careful, it will get stuck in the door. And if it gets stuck in the door, good luck getting that thing back open again without a crowbar or something. So just try and be really, really careful with that. Obviously, if you have like a big, bulky winter coat, you don't want to stuff this in there. I speak from experience. I did this more than once. I had to have the school administration come in and open it for me because I couldn't get it open. It was that badly stuck. And the coats were ruined, so... yeah, that. Also, they take up lots of space, too, so you don't want to waste that. One good thing would be to put 1 copy of your schedule inside your locker, either on the door or on one of the walls where it's easily visible. I would keep, like, another one in, like, your binder, or... I mean, if you're really OCD like I am, you could tape one inside of each of your notebooks or binders, whichever. It depends whether or not you're going to have to turn your notebooks in. If you have to turn them in, put it in a binder, vice versa if you have to turn in a binder instead of a notebook, but whatever. Getting to those later on in another video. But I would keep 1 copy on you and 1 copy in the locker. That way, in case you lose one, you've got the other one to fall back on. So, and it's good to know where you're headed to next from your locker, especially when you're still getting used to where the new classes are. So, it's always a good thing to be prepared. And once you figure out your Once you figure out your bell schedule and where your classes are and how long it takes you to get from your locker to the classes and all, they'll generally give you some leeway, like the first day at least. Some schools, it varies from teacher to teacher, but some will be lenient the first week in general. Other places it's only the first day, so... But, once you figure out about how far it is from your locker to the classes and how long it takes you to get from here to there, what you might want to do, if it's too far to get from here to there without being late, because it will affect your grades, would be to, during your breaks, even though I know they're short and you want to hang out with your friends, but maybe you'll be lucky and they'll follow you to your locker, but, go to your locker during your breaks, get your supplies for the next few classes, like the next group of them, till the next break, when you can come back again, and put the stuff you just had back in there, and the stuff for the next few out, and bring those with you. Because I found I was never able to go to my locker into the next class for every class. It was just never a realistic possibility. I went to a really big high school, so yeah, that was just not possible. I envy you. I can talk. I envy you if you're able to actually get from here to there between every class and have enough time to switch out your stuff, because I really wish I could have done that. It would have saved my back, but so I had to get a rolly backpack, but yeah, go during breaks and during lunch and at the beginning of school, and then at the end of the day put any unnecessary stuff you're not going to need for your homework in the locker, any stuff you need for the homework out of the locker into the backpack, and go on your way. It's not that hard. I would keep some spare supplies in there. Maybe not all your spare supplies, but the stuff you might realistically need during classes, like spare pens and pencils. Like, I was always one that was like fond of bringing a pencil box with me, like from class to class, but additionally I also had the remainders of whatever didn't fit in the pencil box in my locker. So like the excess pens and pencils were like in their original packaging in the locker. And I would say spare paper is a must, keep that in there. Maybe a spare notebook or two, composition notebooks, spare binder or so if you've got them. I mean, just, you never know what's gonna come up, when it'll come in handy. So whatever you think realistically you might need without being able to go home to get it, I would generally just keep in there to be on the safe side, so you've got it there. This is another one that should go without saying, but clean out your locker like every week or every 2 weeks or so. I mean, if you stay on top of it, it won't be that big a deal. You may feel like you don't even need it, but just trust me, do it and reorganize it. You can have the same system every time, but I mean, just reorganize the stuff each time and put it back where it goes, and it'll never get super bad that way. If you don't, you will really, really regret it by like the end of the first month. This was always me, and this is where I speak from experience in what not to do and how to handle it better. Just like, I would say on Friday at the end of the school day before you go home, just make a quick trip to your locker, which you should be doing anyway to get your stuff that you're going to need for your homework over the weekend, and clear out any like loose papers that are laying around and toss those, or put them in notebooks or folders or wherever you want to put them. Just tidy it up. That's all you got to do. And if you do this like every week or every 2 weeks, it'll never be that big a deal, and it like most, it'll take like maybe 5 minutes, which is not that much. Versus if you let it get really bad, you're gonna be there at least 20 minutes. At least. I kind of let it get so bad that I would go like half the year without doing this, and would generally do it right before winter break and at the end of the school year, and that was it. And it got to the point where it was so messy I didn't even bother using the locker anymore, and just, it's all bad. You don't want to do that, so just stay on top of it, and it's not a big deal. Similarly with gym lockers, I speak from experience here too, but bring home your dirty gym clothes at least every couple of weeks. At the absolute maximum, if it hasn't been cold or rainy or muddy or snowy or anything, and if you don't get like sweaty and gross and like make them smell, you could maybe go up to a month, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially for socks. But I would just say every 2 or 3 weeks, bring home your dirty uniform and wash it and bring it back on Monday. So that way you won't have to deal with having the funkified uniforms and getting strange looks from people and the gross feeling of having to put on the dirty uniform. It will spare you a lot of grief to take the little extra effort to do that. Another thing that should be very common sense that wasn't for me with the main locker, don't leave food in there. Just don't. I had a bad habit of like eating half my lunch and tossing the rest in there and just kind of forgetting about it. Yeah. I got complaints from the principal about this. I actually got detentions over this shit, so don't do it. It gets really bad really fast. Even if it's just shit like peanut butter and jelly and it's in a Ziploc bag, oh, trust me, it will still go bad. And people will know, and just, you don't want to do this. So, if you have food in there that's not the current day's lunch, either take it home or toss it, probably preferably toss it. If you absolutely have to have food in there to nibble on between classes, I would have something non-perishable in there that can't go bad. And obviously don't leave it in there the entire year. If it goes stale, toss it. Don't have anything perishable in there. This one, oh my god, I knew a few people that did this. I don't know why it seemed like a good idea to them. They brought a frigging tube of cookie dough in there. Which was great the first day for them because it was still cold when they were nibbling on it. Yeah, by day 2, they got food poisoning. Surprise, surprise! But common sense here, people. Don't put anything like that in there in the first place, because you will get sick and you will regret it, and then you probably won't do it again, but just don't do it in the first place. Don't keep perishable stuff in there. It's not a refrigerator, even if you think it's cool in there and everything. It's not cool enough to keep your food fresh. Just don't. I mean, if you absolutely have to have something sweet in there, have maybe a little thing of candy, or I don't know if this one's a good idea or not, but maybe like one of those small jars of Nutella and some plastic spoons that you can toss after you have like a spoonful of it, and just toss it in the nearest trash can. But you could do that as like your quick little sugar boost thing, and probably be fine with that, because that won't really go bad unless you leave it in there a long time, because it can technically mold, but it takes a really long time, and yeah, trust me, with Nutella, it's not gonna last that long, so but in general, I wouldn't really recommend keeping food in there unless it's just your lunch for the day, in which case that's okay, but other than that, yeah, I'd be kinda iffy about it, so just use good judgment, you'll be fine. Let's see. For the girls, guys, you might want to plug your ears for the next minute or two. This probably sounds retarded, but have a period kit in there. And if you're wondering what that is, like, take a little makeup bag. It doesn't even have to be a big one, just a little one, and make sure it's not one of the see-through mesh ones or anything. Make sure it's a solid fabric one, or plastic, vinyl, what have you, but just make sure it's not see-through, so that way people won't know what it is if they're, like, talking to you and you're at your locker. But, put, like, a few tampons in there, and some panty liners, and a pad or two, maybe, like, one of the little miniature travel-size bottles of Midol or Advil or whatever you take for cramps if you think you're gonna possibly get them really bad and not be able to last till you go home for the day. Have those in there. Have a spare change of underwear in there. Clean ones, obviously. And a plastic bag to take home the dirty ones in. Obviously keep that out of sight if you're gonna do that. And like those I can talk, really. Those individually packaged cleanliness wipes for certain places to clean yourself up if you do get your period and weren't expecting it yet. You can take care of it better that way than having to worry all day about whether or not there's a smell from it. So just have those in there, and if you use them up, obviously restock them, like right after, like the next day, bring more to put back in there for the next time you're going to need them. So there's that. Trust me, it will save you a lot of time and grief. I wish I had thought of this back then, and I hadn't. I have passed this wisdom along to my sisters, and they have both thanked me for it. So, okay. Another thing that you should probably have in your locker, which is not a necessity. I mean, some would argue maybe it is, but like one of those small miniature like fold-up hairbrushes. Obvious reasons. There you go. And like ponytail holders or headbands if you prefer those, or just spare like generalized hair accessories for if your hair is long and it's getting in your way, just so you can do something about it and you're not stuck with it all day. I would also have a thing of Band-Aids in there and a little tube of Neosporin, so in case you get like a little paper cut that you should probably still treat so it doesn't get infected, but isn't really bad enough to necessitate going to like the nurse's office over. I definitely took advantage of this many times and was very glad I did. I would, well, this one's, again, not necessary, but for some people it's more necessary than others, but like a little thing of breath mints, you might want to have those in there too. So, aside from that, if you want to decorate your locker, before you do anything, check the student handbook. Trust me on this one, because while a lot of schools will allow you to do it, most of them have guidelines about what is and isn't allowed in their lockers, and some schools just plain ban it altogether. So you need to know before going into it, because it's not worth getting into trouble over. But, if they're allowed, there's lots of different ways you can decorate them. Like, one way would be with cute wrapping paper. You can cut the size and, like, basically wallpaper the inside of it. Don't do it on the outside, because most schools aren't cool with that, but you can usually get away with the inside if it's, like, taped up. Something that's not permanent, obviously. You're not allowed to glue it to the walls, for obvious reasons. You can't do that. Magnets, whether or not they're functional or just to be cute. Like, you can get the decorative ones that are both functional and cute. But, you can use those if they're the little round ones to hold things up to the walls in there. Like notes and things. You can hold those up. I would also suggest, like, one of those magnet mirrors and stick it on the back wall of your locker. Those are almost always allowed, so you shouldn't have a problem with that, but I put it towards the upper part of the back wall, and you can, like, check your hair, make sure you look okay, so you don't have to, like, make an additional trip to the bathroom to check your makeup or your hair or whatnot. This can go for guys, too, if you're concerned about your looks. Go ahead, have one in there. You don't have to have a girly one. They make just plain ones that have a magnet strip on the back, and if they don't, it's really not that hard to get some magnet stripping and put it in strips on the top and bottom of the back of the mirror, and, like, crazy glue it there, and then pop that onto the back of the locker. I say the back wall because if you put it on the inside of the door, you risk it falling down every time you open or close it too hard. So you don't want that to happen, and obviously if it's on one of the two sides, good luck using that. So pretty much it's just common sense, use the back wall. So there's that. Certain lockers have better airflow through them than others, especially like the air venti type ones. Some get none at all and just smell musty and gross, but generally lockers don't have the best ventilation, so some ways around that. There's like little, well, I wouldn't say car air fresheners, but there's like those stick-on ones. You could like pop one of those in there. Like, I know Bath and Body Works sells those for really cheap. That's one place you can get some good ones. Or you can alternately take some body mist and just squirt it in there. Like, preferably not on your stuff, because you'll probably mess up the paper if you do too much, but just the inside of the locker itself without anything in it, and it'll smell considerably better. Another general staple that most people put up in there are pictures. Whether they be photos or if they're printed out things or like tear outs from magazines or mini posters, just tape those in or stick them up with magnets in there, do your thing, but generally those are almost always allowed, so you can probably get away with some decoration that way. You can put up like favorite quotes or sayings or things on some notepads and stick those up in there. Or postcards, or like a smallish piece of artwork you or a friend have done. There's all sorts of stuff, but like if it makes you feel good to look at it and makes you smile, that's all the more reason to have it in there, because especially if you're having a rough day, you need anything you can to make you smile. So I would suggest some of those sticky notepads. Not necessarily post-it notes, but the ones that have either an adhesive back to the pad itself or the magnetic strip to it. I would take one or two of those and stick them somewhere inside your locker. Those can go on the inside of the door, because those, if they do fall, it won't matter, but they'll probably stay put. But you can jot down notes and stuff that way, or assignments, or anything you need to remember, and doesn't like really need a full piece of paper, but you still need to write down. It's perfect for that. These are totally just optional, but a lot of people do this, and yeah, I wish I had thought of it. Like a small whiteboard, again magnetic, or a corkboard, and you can stick those in there just about anywhere. Again, this is like alternate thing to the notepads. You could do this instead for taking down notes, but personally I like the notepads better. But for people who are like more green about things, you might want to do it this way. But if you want to do corkboard and there's no room for one, what you can do is like cut up some small cork coasters and have them be like mini bulletin boards you can pin stuff to, and just put magnetic stuff on the back. So you can do that. That's an option. If your locker door is like painted and finished on the inside side of it, another thing you can do as far as notes go, I would test this first like in a corner where nobody's gonna see it in case it doesn't come off. Sorry, but use a dry erase marker, like test it in like a really small corner somewhere, and then try wiping it off with like a cloth or a dry erase marker, or not marker, dry erase eraser. And if it comes right off, then you already have your note board right there. Just keep your pen somewhere in your locker, and you can jot down notes or doodle things on there, and you can't get in trouble for it because it wipes right off. So it's another ideal thing. So there's that you can use. Make sure that, especially if you happen to have Sharpies in your locker, do not keep them anywhere near the dry erase markers, because if you use those on the door, you won't be getting that back off easily, and you will probably get a fine for it. As for stuff not to keep in your locker, it's generally common sense stuff here, but don't keep valuables in there. Like, don't keep jewelry in it, don't keep electronics in there, like, don't keep your phone in there, don't bring your computer to school and put it in your locker, because trust me, somebody will find out that you've got it in there and find a way to break into your locker and steal it. Don't put anything in there that you value highly that you can't get another one of. Don't do anything like that, because on the off chance that your locker gets broken into, you do not want to be just out of something like that. You want it just to be stuff in there that wouldn't matter if it happens to go missing. So don't put those in there. Obviously don't have like drugs or alcohol or weapons or lighters or anything else that the school has banned, because funny thing, the school administration has ways of finding out you've got them, especially in the case of drugs. They usually do sweeps with drug-sniffing dogs every so often through the school, so you don't want to be caught with that shit, because you will be arrested. I wouldn't keep medications in there. I mean, I know I said Advil or Midol, that's like one thing, but I mean like medication, like prescription shit. You have to have that checked in at the nurse's office. So, I mean, technically you're supposed to have any medication checked in, but I've known so many people that have gotten away with pink pills in there, and I mean, especially if it's in something like a makeup bag, nobody knows you have it, you're fine. But don't get caught with prescription meds, because they'll accuse you of dealing, and there'll be this whole huge just drama that you don't need. So just check those into the nurse's office, you'll be fine. And don't keep money in your locker, which again, because it'll probably get stolen. I mean, I understand if you want to have like a couple emergency bucks in there for like lunch, or for if your school has like a supply store and you need to make a purchase that you didn't anticipate before coming. There's obviously that, but I mean, I would say keep no more at the absolute maximum than like 10 or 15 bucks in there. If you need more than that for something at school, then it can wait a day and you can bring it, but keep it on your person, don't keep it in your locker. Anything else that you wouldn't want somebody to see, don't have in there. I mean, don't bring like stuffed animals if you're gonna be embarrassed over them. Don't bring anything like that, because funny thing, when people walk by, they can see that. So if you don't want to get teased mercilessly, don't put anything in there that you don't want people to see. And makeup, although it's not like a band type thing, I just wouldn't keep it in there because it wastes space. And chances are, if you wear makeup, you probably carry a purse. Keep it in your purse. And if you don't carry a purse, keep it in like the outer pouch, zipper pocket of your backpack, because you need all the space in your locker that you've got to work with. So, and it just is more convenient to have it on you. So, that's about it on the topic of lockers. So, I'll be taking suggestions for more ideas for videos in this series. So, bye!